Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group. I'm Corey Anderson, and I'll be the host of the meeting today. Here is our agenda. We have, first of all, our welcome and general business, which is what we're doing right now. Then we'll hear from our meeting sponsor, Celigo. After that, our main presentation, AI and NetSuite. That'll be presented by Mike Kachline and Ryan Longenecker, both board members of the user group. Then after the main presentation, I have a short presentation on the NetSuite 2026.1 highlights, and then we'll have our open forum right after that. In the open forum section, that's a time where anybody that's attending can ask any questions of the group, and we can maybe answer your questions or help point you in the right direction on a solution. But we're here to support each other. And it can be basically anything NetSuite related. It doesn't have to be based on today's topics. And so we'll do that for as long as anybody has any questions up until noon Mountain today. So membership to our user group, membership is free. You register at RMNSUG.org. When you register, it ensures that you get notifications of upcoming meetings and events. It also make sure that you get our LinkedIn forum access. So if you're not a member, please sign up today. Where you can find us, we do have a website. It is rmnsug.org. We also have a YouTube channel. So we record and post all of our meetings, which we've been doing for, I think, the last 10 years, at least at this point. So we have all of the content that we've been doing for that whole time listed on our or posted on our website and our YouTube channel. We have a LinkedIn user group, so I'll show you that here in just a minute as well. If you go to our website, you can see all of the previous meeting recordings. We also post the slides from the presenters on our website, so you're welcome to go review those slides, watch that meeting. If you have any colleagues or anybody else in your company that wasn't able to make it today or to any of our past meetings, you can go there and check out all the slides and all of the recordings. We also have our LinkedIn forum. Our LinkedIn forum is a public group, and so you can go to that group. You can post announcements such as job postings, anything that's kind of NetSuite adjacent. So it could be NetSuite specific or somebody in your company that you're looking to fill a role. I'm going to go real quick. I'm going to switch over and just show you those two sites that I just talked about. So here's our website. On our website, you have upcoming meeting information. If you go to the posts section, you can see all of our previous meetings. Here's our one from January. We did searching in NetSuite. You see all of our recent ones, NetSuite planning and budgeting, all about inventory. If you have a topic that you're not sure if we've done, you can type it in the search bar here, and you'll find all of the stuff that we've done over the years. So I'm just going to type in safe searches, for example. And so we've done safe searches quite a bit. It's a very popular topic in NetSuite. So we did it 2025. Actually, every year in January, we do something around reporting and safe searches and that type of thing. So we have all of our meetings, again, all the slides, we have tips and tricks, everything that we've ever done posted on our website here. So you can go and check that out. It's free to anybody, available at any point. I also just wanted to point out our LinkedIn user group forum. So our forum here is where we're going to make announcements about job openings, also user group announcements. And then when we have raffles from our sponsors, like we will today from Celigo that you'll hear about, we'll post the winners of the raffle on our user group forum here as well. So that's how you keep in touch with us when we're not having our meetings. Just going to take a quick minute to introduce our board. So the Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group is we are a nonprofit. We are run by these 6 board members. So I'll introduce everybody here. So that's me in the upper left-hand corner. I'm Corey Anderson. I'm the founder of Stratos ERP Partners. I'm the president of the user group. Then we have our sponsorship and member chair, Margie Cominos of the PlantScan Corporation. Margie is one of the original founding members of the user group and has been a board member for I think, almost 15 years now. We have our communications chair, Mike Kachline of Vertifor, who is going to be one of our main presenters today. Then we have our speaker chair, Peggy Evleth of SquareWorks, and she is responsible for helping get all of our meeting content put together. We have our treasurer, Dana Larson, also has been a member of the board a very long time, of Dana Larson Consulting. And then we have our newest board member, who's not so new anymore, our events chair, Ryan Longenecker of Collective Mind Technologies. And Ryan is also one of our main presenters today. So thank you to the board for everything you do year in and year out, continuing to help this user group run and be successful. For announcements, you can post those on our LinkedIn group, or you can post them in today's meeting chat if you'd like. If it's a NetSuite or adjacent job opening, or if you're looking for a job or something like that, you can post that in the chat window here or on our LinkedIn group. Please note that any advertising posts in this meeting chat will be deleted. We reserve that for our meeting sponsors, which today is Soligo. And then also on our LinkedIn forum, we do restrict the posting to sponsors of the user group, and that way it doesn't become too spammy. I'm not sure if anybody here has seen the big NetSuite user group on LinkedIn, but there's a lot of spam, a lot of posts going on, and we don't really want it to get to that level. So please be respectful, and if you have any announcements, please feel free to post them in the chat today. So evaluations, we do send out a survey. Please take a few minutes to let us know how we're doing. We read and act on feedback from the evaluations. One of the most important things that we look at on those evaluations are ideas for upcoming meeting topics. We do have a fairly regular schedule of meeting topics that we cycle through every 2 years, but we are always looking for new topics as NetSuite comes out with new things, or if there's other concepts that we want to explore. We want to know what you want to hear about. And then also in that evaluation, it gives you the ability to tell us what you liked, what you didn't like about our meetings, and give us ideas of how we can do things better. So it's really important to us. Please take a few minutes to fill out that survey when you get it after the meeting today. Talk really quick about our meeting sponsorship. So as I mentioned earlier, the membership to our user group is free. The cost of our meetings is supported by 2 levels of sponsorship. We have Suite App sponsors and consulting sponsors. Suite App sponsors must be available through suiteapp.com, and consulting sponsors must offer NetSuite consulting services and have certified NetSuite consultants on staff. We are modifying our Suite App consulting sponsorship requirements a little bit as time goes on. I think NetSuite has modified some of their policies around Suite apps, and we've seen multiple solutions out in the market that are not officially a Suite app, but we think that they're valuable to all of the members here. And so if you have a Suite app, please reach out to us, even if it's not on suiteapp.com. If you have an application that's built to enhance NetSuite in any way, we'd like to hear about it, and we're open to those sponsorship types as well. And then our consulting sponsorships, we've modified that a little bit. If you present, if you have a consulting firm and you present the meeting content, that is a sponsorship, because we know it takes time and effort and energy to put together a meeting content and have somebody do the presentation. So that's another opportunity for consulting firms to get some exposure, and also to support our user group. CPE credits. So there will be polling questions throughout the meeting today that you must answer to be eligible for the credits. You must have also registered for the Zoom meeting with your first name, last name, and email address. Make sure that your Zoom app is up to date for the polling question pop-ups. We have had some issues in the past, and if you're only logged in through the web, we've also seen issues with pop-ups. Maybe there's a pop-up blocker in your browser window, so those CPE questions may not pop up. There's nothing that we can do about it on our side. It's going to be on your configuration and how you're logged into the meeting for those pop-ups. Please note that CPE credits take 4 to 6 weeks to issue. We are, as I mentioned, a volunteer group, and so we all have full-time jobs, and it takes time and effort to get all of the CPE information put together and sent out. I'd like to say a huge thank you to NetGain for sponsoring our CPE credits. Our previous CPE sponsor backed out of wanting to sponsor our CPE, and NetGain stepped up and said, yeah, we can do it for you. And so we really appreciate that. So thank you to NetGain for continuing to sponsor our CPE credits. We think it's a tremendous value to our members. Quick note about our upcoming meetings. So May of this year, we're going to talk about workflows in NetSuite. In July, it's our NetSuite 101 or Back to Basics meeting. So that's designed for beginner level people new to NetSuite. Then we'll have our meeting about customizing NetSuite in September. And then November, a very popular topic, scripting for non-scripters. Hopefully, there's going to be some changes to that topic, I would suspect. I'm not sure if Mike, you've been thinking about this or not.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's all kinds of new AI things to consider in this whole world of scripting at this point. So that's going to be a great meeting. Looking forward to that one in November. All right, so we do have an upcoming happy hour in person. So we get to see each other. If you're here in the Denver, Colorado metro area, this happy hour is open to anybody who wants to attend. You can be a NetSuite partner, a customer, a Suite app. Anybody is welcome. So that is going to be Thursday, April 9th. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. And it'll be in Highlands Ranch, which is the south end of the Denver metro area here. If you've registered to be a member of the user group, you'll also get automatically an invite to that event. And that invite, I think we've already sent 1 or 2 of those invites out at this point. But again, that event is open to anybody, and we'd love to see you in person at our happy hour. So I'm going to take a quick minute here to say thank you to our consulting sponsor today. Our consulting sponsor is Collective Mind Technologies. And I do have a little bit of information to tell you about Collective Mind. Let's see. So Collective Mind Technologies helps businesses get more out of NetSuite. Whether you're scaling operations, streamlining your warehouse, or leveling up your CRM or manufacturing workflows, the Collective Mind Technologies brings the consulting, support, AI, and automation expertise to make it happen. And with no monthly minimums, getting started is easier than you think. So again, thank you to Ryan with Collective Mind Technologies for sponsoring and presenting our meeting today. And then also, I'd like to say thank you to our Suite App sponsor, Celigo. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Rico Andrade from Celigo to tell us about all of the awesome things that are going on over at Celigo. I'll stop sharing, and Rico, you can go ahead and take over.
Okay. Thank you very much, Corey. And hi, everybody. My name is Rico Andrade. I had global partnerships here at Celigo. I am coming to you from Sweet Connect Sydney in Australia at the moment, but nice to see a lot of familiar faces on this call. I've been in the NetSuite ecosystem for well over a decade, so know many of you well. So before we start, I hit send prematurely on a chat here that has some Celigo resources. There is a $100 raffle if anyone wants to join, and I'll come back to this afterwards. But wanted to give an update of where Celigo is today. So if you've been in the NetSuite ecosystem for any amount of time, you've absolutely run into Celigo. Celigo is NetSuite's largest global partner. We have over 5,000 customers who are using Celigo to automate processes between NetSuite and other applications. And Celigo has its roots in the NetSuite ecosystem, but over the last 18 months, we've become one of the largest and most important iPaaS companies in the world. We are a visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Gartner selected us as the only customer choice for iPaaS in 2025. We've been number 1 on G2 for 2 straight years now, and G2 named us a 2026 App of the Year. But one thing that you may not realize if you've been around for a while is that Celigo has matured as a platform. So originally, we were primarily, let's say, famous for our pre-built point-to-point connectors, such as Salesforce NetSuite and Shopify NetSuite, or our Cloud Extend applications that allow you to integrate Excel and see live Excel data, live NetSuite data directly inside Excel, or Outlook integration or Gmail integration. But we've expanded the portfolio. So we have an enterprise class automation platform today that also has an excellent B2B / EDI solution. So Celigo has a great EDI offering, number one EDI solution on G2. We have a great API management, API building capabilities, data ingestion, ETL, ELT capabilities. And the most exciting one for at least the last 6 to 9 months is what we do in terms of AI and agentic automation, which I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about today. That's where we've seen the most amount of growth in the last 6 to 9 months and some of the most interesting possibilities there. But yeah, so if you have used Celigo, like this is not an uncommon layout where with the ERP at the center of the organization. And so pairing any long-term ERP strategy with the integration strategy, so you can basically just add your processes as your applications as you go, with Celigo being the hub for all that information to flow around the organization. But on the AI side, there's two areas where Celigo really is heavy in AI. Number one is actually in using AI within the Celigo product to help you build and manage the integrations. So we have released quite a bit of AI capabilities that will help you guide you through the integration process. In some cases, build the integration for you, do auto mapping and so on. But even more importantly, an underrated component of integration is in the development in the management of the integration. So Celigo, for example, has a really killer feature where there's AI that's happening that it's actively looking for errors. It's actively looking for what the resolution of the error is, and it's actually autonomously resolving the errors more than 95% of the time, where it is possible where you don't need a human intervention. So, for example, it's not going to resolve an error if it's missing data error. It's not going to hallucinate data. But if there's other issues in terms of an endpoint being down or something along those lines, the AI automatically understands what to do and may decide to retry it later and so on. But beyond that, there's a lot of capabilities. Every release has new capabilities in terms of enabling you to build agentic flows, AI flows, and in the organization. So we recently released a whole AI studio. There's a agent builder component. We have an MCP server capability. And you certainly can connect to any of the LLMs and create agentic flows. And with that, we've also have quite a bit of experience in terms of like, what does that actually mean? Because a lot of people don't really understand sometimes what it means to add agentic functionality or AI functionality within the organization. They think, oh, I need an AI strategy. I'll get, ChatGPT and that's it. But it's missing the point that everyone has certain workflows. And if you're starting from the point of your the workflows that exist within the organization, and you look at specific components within those flows where maybe there's a lot of data to sort through, there's qualitative decision making that needs to be done, or maybe there's unstructured data that needs to get structured, that those are perfect places to punctuate with a bit of AI functionality. You can put guardrails, whether it be technical guardrails or human in the loop, to be able to ensure that you're not dealing with issues, and then it can really accelerate processes that exist in the organization. And then once people understand that and it kind of clicks how it works, then the flywheel of ideas in terms of, oh, here's some other things that we could do with AI, get implemented. So just to understand where Celigo fits in versus where, let's say, some of the AI functionality that we might be talking about immediately afterwards. So, for example, there's a lot of conversation with NetSuite Next and NetSuite MCP around AI. And these are incredible pieces of functionality, completely transforms how you interface with NetSuite data and set up NetSuite workflows and everything. Celigo certainly can work with it. And there's an additional component because, let's say in an organization, you might be talking about, NetSuite Next with Celigo, with NetSuite, but you have Salesforce and, it's all about Agentforce, and maybe you have some Microsoft tools. And so it's really pushing on the Microsoft Copilot side. But what's missing in this conversation is that there's an opportunity to leverage so much of the data across all these different applications and into agentic flows, so that you are benefiting, right? AI needs a lot of data to do its thing. Celigo is in the business of getting data where it needs to be, and so Celigo can really shine as the orchestrator of for any holistic AI strategy across different applications. And so one of the things that we've done is, we've created a library of use cases that you can start, right off the bat, in some cases implementing. And so a lot of things around customer 360, right? And so your customers are touching so many different applications, whether it be financials on NetSuite, whether it be tickets on Zendesk, product data inside of Splunk, or maybe it goes into Snowflake. You have call recordings in Zoom or Teams or Gong and so on. And to really understand what's happening with that customer, what's their sentiment, what are they using, what are they not using? Is there a possibility for expansion? Is it a churn issue? Like you can do research in seconds, by tying all these data sets. And orchestrating and having that interface through like something like Slack or Teams, where you can basically speak to the data, ask questions about the customer, and it'll provide these reports. And so it can be used with the sales team or expansion team, account management team, on the sales side. It can be used on support side to be able to quickly sort out issues and, help them support the work that they're doing. It can be used to accelerate, project development and summarize calls and next steps and so on. So it's a really useful case. And if there's one use case that I'd say, like, this is like you can implement like today, and really start understanding the value of the flow of this agentic flow. For example, every company has that email, where it receives, can you send me my invoice, my W-9, and so on. And so you could add a listener. You can go to the template Celigo, and you can put a listener into that email where it's actively looking at that. It's making sense of what the email is. It's creating a draft. It's going into the right application. It's going into NetSuite. It's pulling a PDF and so on. And then you can have it respond automatically. But most people, what they would want to do is not respond automatically, but actually make sure that it goes into a drafts folder that someone in finance can then review, make the final call, and then send. So there's no issues. But at least the majority of the work has already been done in terms of research and pulling everything else. It's just a matter of final confirmation and sending. So there's so much to talk about. Celigo's so rich in the environment. We're going to be in so many of these events in person. We'd love to talk to you. But if you want to learn more about this or any capabilities, just go to celigo.com. You can go into this link, enter for the $100 raffle that we're going to be doing. And you can schedule a meeting directly from this link over here. I also am going to put, again, the links that I shared by a little prematurely earlier, but includes the NetSuite integration handbook and some very deep resources in terms of common integration use cases if you really want to understand things like, let's Shopify B2B integration, data warehousing integration, and so on. So with that, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, just put them on the chat or reach out directly, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Rico. Thank you for sponsoring today's meeting. Really great content. And we'll repost the raffle link multiple times throughout the meeting this morning as well. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and move into our primary presentation for today. And I believe, Mike, you are presenting first, correct?
I am presenting first.
Okay. And real quick, Mike, did you put the CPE questions embedded in your presentation, or do I need to interrupt you?
They are embedded.
Okay, perfect. Well, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Corey. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
All right. Welcome, everybody. So this presentation will be split in two halves. I'm doing the first half, and my goal, I have two goals for all of us. One is to describe to you how AI works, and I'll go into that in a little bit, but I'm not going to get super technical, but I also want us to be like, a little bit like it's a computer, right? So we're going to talk about that. And then the second part I want to talk about is really split into two sub halves. One is, how does this affect you personally? I think everybody on this call is probably thinking about this, right? You're hearing about it and like, what does this mean for me? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I'm also going to, in the context of that, I'm going to talk about what is going on today in the world. Like you're probably, seeing news snippets every now and then and talking to peers. So I kind of want to give you some insight as to what I'm seeing, at least from my perspective. And, this is a recorded call. So this is March 2026. So, it's changing so fast. This will all be like probably ancient by the time, even just a couple months from now. So let's get started. Here we go. Okay, so these will be our topics. What is AI? We're going to go through some common terms and definitions. Everybody hears these terms. Nobody knows what they mean. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to go through how does it work? Like, how does this actually work? Not super technical, but a little technical. And then again, the capabilities and closing thoughts. Some context about me myself as you think about like, who is this guy talking to me? I know some of y'all heard my, talks before. So my background, I have a bachelor's in science of computer science at Georgia Tech. So that was really hard. I struggled a lot, but it was an amazing program. Um, and I am one of those guys who's kind of wired like a developer. Anybody who knows me probably would be nodding up and down a lot. So I'm very much a developer, but also really love accounting and finance and that kind of stuff in business. Also a Linux geek. So I tell you all these just because it gives you a little bit of color of, how I'm looking at all this. My current role, I'm a NetSuite manager at Vertafore, big company, team of three. We're a small team, but we do a lot and go fast. All right, let's go on. What is AI? So there's all these terms. So let's cover the terminology and get a little bit more intelligent there. So I'm going to walk you through on a very layered approach because we're going to build concepts here. So right, sorry, my timer. Good. All right. So the very first concept, the very fundamental foundation of AI is something called a neural network. And this is where in a computer program, you're modeling what is in the human brain, something called a neuron. And I got a little picture of it. Many of y'all have probably seen this little picture of a neuron. It's a little thing that's in all of our brains, and there's like a bazillion of them, and they all connect to one another. And the basic idea is that you've got an electrical signal that comes in one end, and then the neuron either just absorbs that signal or there's some threshold in the neuron, and then it passes it through to the other. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but that one little concept of data comes in, some kind of decision, maybe a signal comes out, maybe it doesn't, is the entire foundation of AI. So the combination of the digital form of these little neurons that are emulated in a computer is called a neural network. You've also maybe heard of a term called machine learning, or the abbreviation is called ML. So machine learning is where computer scientists figured out how to get these neural networks and feed data in, like connect the neural networks and then feed data in and then have it start like learning. And we'll go into that a little more later in the talk of like how does a computer learn? It's an interesting adventure, y'all. A little bit of context too for this talk is I was probably where you were about 3 months ago, and then I just like dove in head first and went underwater, 100 feet underwater and learning the math and all that, and came out on the other side. So I'm hoping to distill it down and not get too technical here. And then, okay, back to terminology. So machine learning is where you get these neural networks and you basically push data at it. And then you have AI, which stands for artificial intelligence. And in AI, you are using machine learning so that you can actually, so you've pushed a bunch of data at this network of these little neuron things that somehow remembers and learns. And you use that network of these neural networks to do something useful. That's AI. All right. Why is that? Okay. Building on that, you might have heard the terminology of a LLM. What is an LLM? That stands for large language model. So, what is that? That is a massive neural network. So, again, the neural networks we talked about that use machine learning to recognize patterns across trillions of words. So LLMs started with just words, but they have migrated in what's called multimodal into images. So LLM was literally taking a neural network and training it on a large number of words that were put together in a sequence like you would get in a book. LLMs now are kind of represent you train it not only on words, but you can train it on pictures and you can train it on audio, which really audio is just the waveform version of words. So you can take an audio and turn it into words, and then now you're just training on words again. So LLM is large language model. You'll see that a lot. GPT, Chat GPT. Where did this GPT come from? Well, before Chat GPT was a thing, and this was all computer science world, a GPT it stands for a generative pre-trained transformer. And each of those words have meaning. But basically, for us who don't want to go too deep into all that, um, the a GPT, it's actually really important. A GPT is something that uses training to predict the most likely next word or next step. It is literally as simple as that sound. Like what is the next most probable thing that I should say right here? There are other types of LLMs that aren't just looking one step in advance, that they actually look back and forward, primarily something called a BERT. I might go into that a little later, but GPT is the most common for us, but there's other types of LLMs and models, which gets to the next term, a model. So you've got a neural network, you did the machine learning thing on a bunch of language, which is LLM, and you want to use that in this forward prediction way. So what are all the things you train it on? So you train on all those things. We'll talk about that a little later in this talk. So you train it, train it, train it, train it, train it, and then you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is good enough. So you kind of freeze that, and that is what you call a model. And this is what a lot of us see in the news, in the media. If you have a Gemini or ChatGPT or something like that, you're seeing these like brands like GPT. ChatGPT just came out with version 4.5, and you've got Claude Sonnet 4.6 and things like that. Those are models. It's just a frozen version of a GPT that somebody said it's good enough, ship it, put a name on it. Right. The next terminology. So we have our model, which for those of y'all who are using AI, you're interacting with a model, or the model's the foundation. So you're going to hear these terms also. For those of y'all who are not into AI yet, you're going to hear these terms all the time. So prompts. So prompts is a very broad terminology for basically stating what you want and stating who you are and stating who the model should be, like basically stating what it thinks it needs to think about. You do this in the plain English language. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But prompts is a way for you to communicate. It's quite frankly a way for you to communicate in English to focus the conversation on what you want to focus on. Context is what prompts help build. So context is for this AI, it starts when you start one of these things up, it doesn't know you from Adam. We'll talk about it later. It's math. And with context, what you're doing is you are giving it information about what you want to talk about. And the more detail, the better. And that builds what's called context, which is also closely tied to hardware memory. We'll get into that a little later too. And the AI uses what is in its context to help decide how to respond to you. Context is very important when we hear, the terms hallucination. Usually, then you're having context problems. And then RAG is part of context. So you're going to hear this terminology, RAG, that stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So this is a special kind of prompt. It gets a little techy, but it's basically where you feed data in, typically in the form of a file. And there's a special kind of model, it's not a GPT, that its purpose is to take these files and evaluate it and figure out, basically compute vectors. And we're going to talk about that. I know that sounds scary and crazy, but I'll try and make it a little simple. But it computes vectors, it does math, and remembers the math results so that the file that you fed in is more easy for the AI to understand. Sorry, that got a little technical, but that's basically RAG. It's you feeding files in. There's a different kind of AI in the back that's reading it and understanding it in an AI specific way. All right. First CPE question.
Okay. I'm going to launch the first CPE question. I hope they line up. It looks like they do. All right, we're going to leave the CPE question open for about a minute here. So take your opportunity to answer CPE for CPE credits. About 30 seconds left for the first CPE question. And you have to answer the CPE question in the pop-up. All right, last chance to answer the CPE question. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'll share the results. All right, Mike.
All right. So a model is a specific frozen instance of a GPT. Yeah, so it's like a closely tied to brand in our world of AI today.
All right.
All right, move on. Okay, so we talked about some terminology. There's a whole bunch of other terminology, but I don't want to like drown you all in it. Those were kind of the fun. You're going to deal with the fundamentals. You're going to deal with it all the time. You're going to see it. Let's talk a little bit about how does AI work? And what we're really talking about here is not math, but the difference between being a human being and being a computer, right? I want you to, this is where I had to, in my journey of understanding all this, of like, because AI really sounds like a person, like it's shockingly good. And this is what took me to really understand like what I'm actually working with here. It's not magic, it's math. The little quote down there was really funny. It was interesting. I was working with so I have Anthropic, I have ChatGPT, and I have Google, and I use all of them to learn the difference between the three of them. They're all extremely good. And this one Google came up with, and I thought, wow, that's a great one. AI doesn't have a soul, but it has a very accurate map of how humans express their souls. And we're going to talk about it. You're going to see the map in this presentation. So I want you to understand that AI, when you have, some of you have already had this moment, some of you haven't, but will. When you have that moment where you blink and say, "Oh my God, like how does it do that?" Don't forget, it's math. It's just math and it's patterns. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next year. Okay, so remember we talked about neural networks, which is a very fundamental, it's based on a neuron. It's like data comes in, there's some basic decision, then data comes out. And then those things are all stuck together a lot in your brain. You have neurons, and there's a bunch of them, and they're all put together. And you think about them daisy chaining, right? Like when you hear things, there's an input that comes in, then the neuron decides whether it passes it on, and if it does, it goes to the next neuron, and it has made the same decision. So that's how these AIs work. There's a bunch of digital forms of those. And then you have machine learning. So machine learning is where you feed data in. Well, what data do you feed in? So when computer scientists built these AI neural networks, they were like, well, what do we do with this thing? So they went on the internet and they found the internet's full of data, right? Like Wikipedia alone, the amount of information in there. So they just took this data, which is just text, right? It's all just text. And they feed this thing into the AI. And we're going to get a little bit, well, this is kind of where we're getting into it. So they take like, a page on, what is a cat, for instance, and you read Wikipedia and it'll have these words. Like words are just like collections of letters with spaces between them. The AI doesn't really know what a word is. It's just like a collection of letters with spaces between them. So what is the AI doing with this data? Well, it's basically computing probabilities. So one of the things that happens, and we'll talk about this in the hardware section, is that there's a limit in every AI model to how many dimensions it can and a dimension's just like I don't know, it's just a number. They're all actually just numbers. When you feed it a document and it looks at a word, it basically predicts. It says, okay, what's the probability that this word would come next? This other word would come next. This is based on the words that it's seen before. What's the probability that I'll see this next word? And it goes and computes these probabilities, and then it says, in the training process, there's it's given the right answer. Like, well, I thought the right answer was this, but the right answer is actually that. That was wrong. Let me go dial my little math probabilities down. They're called weights. We'll get in that in a minute. Let me dial that down a little bit in something called gradient descent. I'm going to take this data again, and I'm going to run it through those weights and see if that makes a difference. And it does this over and over and over and over and over again, millions of times. And the more it learns, the more it goes back and says, well, what's the probability this word would come after that word based on the probabilities that I've computed before? So when you read in the news and see on the news about these humongous data centers and the power consumption, that's very real because you have these iterations when you're training an AI. And this is where you hear in the news about investments in AI from Google and Anthropic and ChatGPT. They are doing this incredibly iterative process of one word at a time, and it figures out what's the probability that this word would be after that based on what I've learned so far. So when I said like, how does AI work? It's math, it's patterns, it's numbers. You think about when you read words, we all learned this in like elementary school that there's patterns to the English language, right? So like it's looking for patterns, it's looking for words and computing probabilities. It also computes meaning with something called vectors. So I'll show that the next slide will give you a visual. It was hard for me to wrap my head around, but the next slide will hopefully maybe help a little bit. But there's this concept called vectors that help give meaning to the words. And then there's just like millions of dimensions, the whole AI understanding why. So there's part of the training is there are kind of like these dimensions of like how it should think or how it should compute numbers sometimes. All right, let's see. It's on the chat. Okay, great. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to talk about vectors. I know this is deep, but what I really want to instill in everybody isn't the math, but it is understanding that AI is patterns and math. That's all it is. It's math. So this is the best explanation I've seen. I've seen this in two places, where if you were to put a number by the words queen, king, woman, and man, and graph those numbers, they could look something like this, right? You could like just look at that first graph. So the queen to woman, you see there's that like it's this certain length, and then it's like that certain kind of diagonal way. The math behind AI, when you're like, how did it know this from that? I was saying that thing, but then it just knew about this other thing. How did it know that? This is how it does it. So in the math sense, it says that the if you took the king position on this graph and you subtracted out the man position, and then you took that answer and added it to the woman position. So basically, you take that king man arrow, the red arrow, and you put the bottom of the king man red arrow where the blue woman arrow is, it will take you to where the queen blue arrow is. So mathematically, king minus man plus woman equal queen. Hopefully, this for some of you is like, oh my God, is that how it works? For some of you, you'll be like, oh my God, math, please no. But this is how it works. This is the math. So when I say AI is math and AI is patterns, it computes numbers that are called weights. We'll get there in a minute by every single word. And then it uses these vectors to be able to, I think it's called cosine similarity is the concept in math, but it to basically compute like, if you're talking about a king minus man plus woman, that's a queen. Like it can mathematically associate concepts with one another. Okay, go to the next. All right, next slide is a CPE question.
All right, let me get that CPE question popped up here. All right, CPE question number 2 is available to answer. About 15 seconds left for that CPE question. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'll share those results.
Great, thank you, Corey. All right, everybody. Yes, how does AI store, like, remember information? The answer is it uses these things called mathematical weights. And we'll get a little bit more into that earlier, but yeah, it does not, there's no SQL database. It doesn't retrain every single time. It's literally, it's numbers. All right, next slide. I think it's a little more into that. Oh, we can talk about hardware a little bit. I love hardware. So I'm going to give you guys, we're not going to go too much into this, but I just want to give you some context of, again, you talk about, you hear the news and like the power consumption and all these things. Like, think about if you were to buy a brand new laptop, what kind of memory and CPU, memory and processing do you have in that laptop. So I asked, I think Google this. So it's like, hey man, what's the best laptop or whatever? And this is what came out. The 2026 HP OmniBook, you have 12 cores, which means you have 12 CPUs. You can do 12 things at the exact same moment in time on that HP. And RAM, you can get 32 gigabytes, you can get 62 gigabytes. RAM is like really, really fast memory. It's that, I talked earlier about the concept of context and said that really matters, and it does really matter. And it's just like a human being, like you can only remember so many things until stuff starts falling out on the other end. Well, AI is exactly the same way. So in your laptop, if you bought a laptop that was super duper, you'd spend about $1,600, you'd get 12 cores and 32 gigs. In the world of AI, the company that everybody's heard of because they were honestly the leading edge of all this is a company called NVIDIA, and they make very specialized things called GPUs. A GPU stands for a graphical processing unit. Now, what's really interesting about AI is that GPUs were created completely independent of AI. You had computer scientists who were doing this like neural network machine learning thing, and they were trying to like figure out how to conceptually stitch this together. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you had these kids, for some of you, they were your kids, for some of you, they were you, who really loved playing these games. And the games were super realistic. Like the first person games and the rendering was just amazing. It was really quick. And NVIDIA started by creating graphics cards that were able to paint or render these games incredibly quickly. And to do that, it's a special kind of hardware that does math in the hardware on every pixel at the exact same time. So it took this like massive parallelization. And again, it was made for games. And somewhere within the past, I don't know, couple of years, 3 or 4 years, maybe, I don't remember what the timeline is, but somebody connected the dots and said, oh, wait, instead of computing what a scene in a game should look like, we could use that exact same hardware to run neural networks and do machine learning. And once people figured that out, these GPUs, which used to be used for games, are still used for gaming, suddenly became wildly popular for training, for doing machine learning training and then ultimately creating these models. So in the world we're in now, NVIDIA they took the GPU and they've created something called a TPU, which is a tensor processing unit. And those deal more with those vectors we saw, the king, queen, man, woman thing. They're now purpose built for these AI vectors. And they're even, faster. So in NVIDIA, the top NVIDIA today, the Blackwell GPU, again, for context, one GPU has 20,000 cores. It can do 20,000 neurons in a single clock cycle. And I don't know what the clock cycle is, but it's really fast. And then the RAM in one of these GPUs is 192 gigabytes. So the amount of context, the size of the arrays that it can compute is vastly larger than you could do on your laptop. But AI being where it is right now, one of these GPUs is 40 grand. And I would be willing to bet that many of these data centers that we see in the news has hundreds or thousands of these GPUs in it. I don't know how many, but it's going to be a lot. So just be aware there is hardware out there. And NVIDIA is not the only game in town. So AMD makes it, just look for popular gaming. Intel's making their own. The Chinese are starting to make their own. These GPUs, the concepts in the GPUs are pretty well known, and they're scaling. But NVIDIA is by far ahead of the crowd these days. All right, now on to the second part of my talk, and this is, I think, the most important part. So we talked about what is AI, the terminology, that we talked about the neural networks, machine learning that goes into a model, right? Everything's a weight. Remember, it's just math. It's just math. Don't forget, it's just math, and it's patterns. now I want to talk to you, like human to human, right? Like, what does AI mean to me? Where is it? And those are linked because what does AI mean to me is linked to what is AI or what's going on in AI right now. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context into that too. So one of the things that came up in this LEGO presentation earlier today with these terms is interesting. I saw these like, oh, I'm about to talk about these very soon. So, kind of a big thing in AI today, and this is going to progress incredibly rapidly, but it's just where we are today, is what is known as orchestration. So, I'm going to kind of go backwards here. So, in AI, by the way, guys, this exists today. You can buy this today. You probably already have it if you like on a ChatGPT Enterprise or something like that. You just don't know you have it, or if you use Lego, apparently they got it now too. So, imagine a world where you have a room full of, I'm going to say people, but they're called agents in the AI world. So you have a room full of people where each person is really good at something, whatever the thing is, it doesn't really matter, but they're really good at that thing. They've studied everything, they've remembered everything. They're really good at that one thing. And then you've got like the boss man up front, right? And the boss man knows how to talk to these other, how to divvy up a problem to the different agents. But then there's you, the human. Like these AI is so that, by the way, the boss man and the different agents that have the really good thing, that's your orchestration, right? You got this digital board of directors concept. And then like the workflow is what the boss AI or you, but it can be an AI now. Basically, it's a set of instructions like what do I need to do to solve the problem? But the one thing AI doesn't really know is what problem do we need to solve? And that is where you and I as humans will always be. Like in what is the point? What is the purpose of this AI orchestration that can run really, really fast? What do they need to do? And what does success mean for that? So I want you to know, for those of y'all who are not in AI, there is a capability now to on basically one of these platforms, you can spin up one of these digital board of directors and you can define like I want that room to be filled with people who are good at this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill. And the more clearly you define those skills and those agents, they're called agents, right? An AI that's really good at a very specific thing, the more clearly you can define that, the better they'll be at it. So orchestration, digital board of directors, agents are those individual like AI bots, I guess some people would call them, that are really good at one thing. And they're really good at that one thing because you tell them to be really good at the one thing and you give them additional data, which is above called RAG. You give them a bit additional data so that they can get better. Like in us in the NetSuite world, the one thing I do always in the agents is I give it just all of the source code out of our NetSuite system. I just zip up the Suite Scripts folder, give it, say, hey, here's all of our customizations. Go read that, go figure it out. You can do that today. And in a workflow, again, is just a set of instructions where you, the human, typically would be like, this is what I think you need to do. And AI is actually in a world today where you kind of don't have to do that anymore as a human. You can just ask it like, hey, here's the problem. What needs to happen to make this better? But we can kind of get that a little later. All right. PPE question.
All right, CPE question number 3. CPE is launched. Leave that up for another 45 seconds or so. And just so everybody knows, we will be taking a short break at the top of the hour here, or when Mike's presentation is done. About 20 seconds left for that CPE question.
It looks like the CPE, one of our people, Karen, had a problem with the CPE. I don't know if you can pop it back up for her, Corey.
I have no control over that. I
Uh,
pop it up and it either pops up
Nope.
or
Okay.
doesn't. It's a local user per user
Okay.
issue. I have no control over it. Yeah.
Okay. Karen, when we get the files, I'll just take a look, and note you as having, answered the question because you're clearly participating. So,
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah, this question is really important because for those of you who are going to work in AI and haven't yet or are working in AI, you're just going to hear this term of an agent over and over and over. So it's the model. And again, remember, the model is a frozen form of a GPT. The GPT is this thing that's trained word by word by word using machine learning with a bazillion different neural networks on an NVIDIA GPU. I hope y'all followed my trace there. So the agent is a model where you, the human, have used typically RAG and prompts to to configure that. You tell that model like, hey, you don't need to know about how to fix cars or how to do like, how to go be a better skier, or don't worry about any of that. Just focus on this one kind of thing. That's going to be your agent. You get a model and you focus it in. One great thing about focusing these agents in is that just like a human, you free up their memory so that they don't have to remember all this stuff. They can just remember about the topic that you told the agent that it needs to be good at. That's probably one of the very good things about agents and getting them very specific. All right. Next slide. All right, where is AI today? So two things that are also really emerging, and I think Ryan's going to talk about these as well. They came up in the Celigo talk a little bit earlier today. Two concepts you're going to hear. One is called MCP, and the other is called a tool. They're very much related. So let's start with MCP. So MCP is an abbreviation that stands for Model Context Protocol. And it's a fancy term for those of us who are in the kind of computer science space or development space. All it really is another API. And for those of y'all in the business world, like who've had to deal with APIs and integrations and stuff like that, MCP is you take the concept of an API and you build a layer on top that says, what if we could expose our existing APIs to an AI in such a way that the AI understands what APIs we have available and how the AI would use each of the APIs. So it's kind of like a programmatic version of blending your help documentation and your actual API together in the form of an API. I know that sounds maybe confusing, but MCP is basically, if you're not a techie, it is a endpoint that you can connect your model to and say, hey, go look there to learn for insight. I'm sure they do or will soon. The MCP endpoint, you say, hey, model, go connect to the Celigo MCP endpoint, and you will be able to do all the things that Celigo says that I can do with Celigo. Like, you can do that for me. So MCPs will be very, very big as far as empowering AIs to actually do things. Because AIs just think about stuff, right? They're math. They just recognize patterns. But at some point, you can have the AI actually do something like send an email or push a button on a screen or things like that. And MCPs are how they do that. Tools are just very specific. MCP I think of as like a collection of tools. So tools are just very specific actions that the model can do. It's basically a computer program, right? The model just calls the program with inputs and it gets outputs, and then it evaluates the outputs as text. In fact, for some of y'all might remember the days when AI was really bad at math, right? And the reason it was really bad at math back then was, well, AI is just a giant pattern matching. It's looking for, one number after another. And have I ever seen this number? Have I ever seen a number and then a plus sign and then another number? Have I ever seen that before? Well, AI, you know, back then it would get it wrong because it's looking for patterns. But now it's a little smart enough. It says, oh, I see a number and then like an arithmetic thing and then another number and then like a parenthesis. Oh, this looks like a math equation of some sort. Let me just go get all the math equation-y looking stuff. And I'm going to go call like an internal tool that's a calculator. And I'm just going to feed it in that and it'll give me the answer. Just like you and I would as a human. Like yes, we could do the math, but why when you have a calculator? So AI is way better at math now, and that's part of why it recognizes the pattern and then it'll math stuff, and then it feeds it into the calculator tool that it has. All right, next slide. What can AI do today? This is for me personally, and for honestly some of you, this is probably the most impactful slide in this presentation I have for y'all. This is also for those of y'all who are like, how is AI going to affect me in, my career, my job, all that? Look at the software development world to get some insight of what that's going to look like. I can tell you that the quote up there is mine. Software development, as we have known it, has changed forever. So I started as a computer science major. I learned a lot of languages, wrote a lot of code. I'm pretty convinced now I will never write code again because I don't have to. And the best, I guess, parallel I can give is, back in the, like 70s, somewhere in that era, like 80s, like you had a lot of people who wrote assembly language, like machine code, people writing machine code. And then Fortran came out and that just nobody wrote machine code anymore. You really just didn't have to, right? This is AI for software development is that next, it's the same iteration except with code in general. I am 100% convinced that nobody's going to write code anymore. You just don't need to. The screenshot is a session I had really earlier on. I was playing with, I think this was Claude at the time, and I wanted to write like something on an Arduino that read a CAN bus on my Volvo. And it's like, I don't, I could spend weekends and go learn all the APIs. It's like, maybe what if I didn't have to? What if I just told it what I want? And that was the conversation here. So Claude I'd tell it what I want, and it's like, okay, yep, let me go look what hardware. Actually, it told me what hardware I should use. So I was like, yeah, go use that. That sounds good to me. And it gives this checklist of like, all right, I'm going to go do all this research, and I'm going to, look at these PIDs. You can see it in the screenshot. But the point being is that I didn't write any code. I didn't need to write code. All I needed to do is be very clear on like, here's what I want you to do. And I want to tell all of y'all, like in the NetSuite ecosystem, like it's already there. It's there today. Can it write SweetScript? It absolutely can write SweetScript. You don't have to even think about it. You just tell it what you want, tell it to do it in SweetScript. We'll get a little bit more on that later. So a terminology you might have heard is vibe coding. That became really popular term. It's still a term. It's a very real meaning, which is that you write code by telling the AI what you want it to accomplish. So you basically say, go write code that does these things. And when you see that you push this button with this data, then you should see this response. If you see all that, that's you did it right. That is a reality today that can exist today. And it's not just SweetScript, it's any code. So for those of us in the software development world, it's a real shift. Like we, built our whole careers around being good at coding and all that. For those of you who are not in software development, but you have always had ideas, or you've just there's these things you wish you could do, but it takes a tech guy, and you don't know the tech stuff. I want to tell you, those days are over. You open one of these AIs and you just tell it what you want. You iterate back and forth with it. It will get it right. You'll never have to look at the code. So yeah, Copilot, Claude Code, Codex, Gemini, all these are tools that can be used for doing this quote unquote vibe coding. Second, just kind of more from I'm a car guy. For those of y'all who know me, I'm really into cars. And this was where I was experimenting with AI for like, well, can we use it for things other than code? And I learned pretty quickly that yes, you can. So in this case, what I did, I've actually done this twice, where I had my Gemini app on my phone and I clicked this little icon called live mode, and then you can turn on your camera. I literally did this twice again. The first was here. I turn on the camera and I just turn on the microphone. I start talking to it real time. I'm like, hey, I can't get this stupid half shaft thing out. Like, and I told it, go research the web and see if other people are having the same problem and tell me what I need to do to get the stupid thing out. So we had a conversation, a real conversation. That I just want to tell y'all that exists today. Like it is on your phone. You could do it today. Um, Claude does it, ChatGPT does it, Google does it. Doesn't really matter. They're all really good. The second conversation I had recently was I installed some sway links or something like that. And I forgot, like, oh, does this go before or after the brake line or something? Did the same thing. I turned on the video and I asked it. I was like, hey, I'm in the rear of the car. Like, is it supposed to be on the back or the front of the brake line? It goes and researches the web and tells me the answer. So AI is good enough now today to answer those kinds of questions. Okay. I'm almost done, Corey. Sorry. And for everybody else, thanks for hanging on. We will have our break very soon here. Um, One thing worth noting, for those of y'all who are wondering, because you're wondering about privacy, and you should, can I do this like and not be with a Google and all that? And I want to tell you that the answer is yes. You can run a AI model completely on your computer with no network access at all successfully. This screenshot is from my computer. There's something called Open Web UI, which looks and feels a whole lot like ChatGPT. And you can have it talk in the back to, I use a model, it's very, very popular platform called Olama. And Olama has open models. What does an open model mean? Well, I didn't mention this a little earlier, but it's a good time to mention it. So, I talked about the training process, right? It goes through this iterative process of feeding the next word in and then computing the probability that this word would be after that, and then doing this thing called gradient descent to figure out, like, was I right or wrong? If I was wrong, let me tweak the numbers, the weight I'm using, and iterate until the probabilities match. When you're done with training, when ChatGPT, Google, and all that, they're done with training, what is stored? Like something somewhere is stored on a disk that is one of these like models. What is that? And the answer is it's a whole bunch of numbers. They're called weights. And these numbers actually are floating point numbers that go from 0 to 1. That's it. Again, probabilities. It goes from 0 to 100%. So these fancy models, these AIs that you're working with, they are a whole bunch of numbers that go from 0 to 1. Lots of them. How many? Or if you put them all together in a single file, it's about a terabyte for some of the latest models. And for context, you can easily fit a terabyte on a hard disk, like on your computer. Or I think some thumb drives, you could probably do it now. So, that gets back into how do these things remember? They really don't remember. They just have these weights that they compute. So Olama, well, let's go back to Google and Anthropic and all that. They did all this work to compute these weights. Those weights are theirs. They're not giving anybody the weights. This was the whole thing in the news about the DoD and all that, because the DoD needs the weights, right? Well, Olama is models where the weights are open source. You can go on the internet and download all the weights and look at them. I don't know what you do with them. I'm not that much of a computer scientist, but I think people can actually you can do something called fine tuning to tweak the weights. So Olama is an open source model. The reason to kind of come back to earth here, A llama is an open source model, can run completely on your local computer using open weights that were computed by people on the internet who made open models. Open Web UI is the screenshot you have here. N8N is a fantastic open source tool that does orchestrations very similar in a way to what Celigo had demoed. Also, I'm sure Celigo's is more fancy at this point. And then OpenClaw, I got to mention it because it's in the news a lot. This is a tool that is open source that runs on your local computer and runs multiple agents in that orchestration concept. And you can just like custom dial it to do, you can make an agent to read your email. You can make an agent to check your competitors' websites and see if they're up to anything and let you know if this case, like the sky's the limit, kind of what it can do. The with caveats when I say on your local computer is if you might remember that hardware slide, the fanciest, HP, you got what, 12 cores, and a Blackwell NVIDIA has 20,000 cores, if I remember right. It's going to be real slow unless you have a GPU. At home, I have an older GPU called a NVIDIA 1080 Ti. You can pick them up on Craigslist for like, I don't know, maybe $200 or something like that. And it's got like 3,000 cores in it. So it's slow, but it's enough that you can like do these things and kind of learn the concepts. So the biggie for everybody, if you're concerned about privacy, this is where I was when I got started. I was concerned about privacy because I didn't know what I didn't know. You actually can run all this stuff on your local computer. If you do, though, you probably need some kind of GPU. And if you search, you'll find the right GPUs for you. All right, next CPE question. Probably the most important one in my whole presentation.
All right, CPE question number 4 is up. About 30 seconds left for the CPE question. Last chance, CPE question number 4. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll here, share the results.
Okay, most important question in my part of the presentation. What skills are most essential to write or maintain software using AI? The answer is the ability for you as a human to clearly define what you want and to communicate that what working software looks like. Cannot emphasize this enough because it's really exciting for some of you in this group. If you've ever been in that, like, God, I wish I could just do blah, but I'm not a tech guy. Those days are over. You don't have to be a tech guy. You just have to know how to communicate like a person. And you have to have the, the ability to iterate too, which we'll get in the next slide. Right. Closing thoughts. So first off, thank you everybody for listening through on my part of the talk. It's been a real adventure for me, learning everything, and I hope you've learned some too. The first bullet, which I had to face before I started any of this, was I had to decide how I was going to treat AI. This, I think everybody's going through right now, is what is this thing, and do I feel threatened by it, or is it an opportunity? And I'll be honest, when I first got into it, it was kind of a threat. Like my entire everything that I've built myself around just disappeared. I would encourage you in your personal adventure or your personal journey, life journey with AI, is to learn objectively what it is. This is why I really wanted to emphasize it's math. I cannot emphasize that enough. AI is not doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have none of that. It's just math and probabilities. And just kind of learn. And as you learn more about AI, you're going to learn more about you, interestingly, and then make your decisions from there. The second bullet that I've learned, I embraced AI as an opportunity. It's a little bit of a threat too, but it's mostly an opportunity the more I learn about it. It's still a little bit of a threat too. So like it's a little bit of both. Um, One thing I've learned with AI is you the human being have to learn how to be a teacher. The thought I always like to tell people is imagine a world where you snap your fingers and immediately in front of you like appears this person straight out of like the best school you could ever imagine, Harvard, MIT, whatever, right? And they've studied for years, they have a PhD, they've learned all these things, they've read all the books, and they're one of those people who like remembers everything. And you're like, God, how do you do that? One of those people, right? They're super smart, but they don't know you from Adam. Like they don't know who you are. They don't know why you're talking to them. They don't know like if they're in a business. Like they just appeared here with all this book knowledge. For you to use that intelligence and intelligently, you have to give it context. You have to tell it like, hey man, I need to talk to you about this. And we're in this company and our company does this. This is how we add value to our customers. And you have to like teach it what why it's there. So that's one of the lessons I've learned is learn how to teach. If you use AI, you are going to learn how to teach the AI. The third bullet is really important also. It's also very easy to do with AI is and you'll hear this over and over and over on the podcast, is you collaborate with AI. So you don't just ask it a one-shot question. You you ask it to ask you. That's what I love to do. I always tell it something and I say, before you give me any answer ever, always ask me questions so that you can be clear to understand of what I'm actually asking you. Because let's be honest, people, we are people, and sometimes we don't even know what we're asking for. And the AI it's a math machine, and it's doing what's called gradient descent. Like it's trying to get to crisp numbers to 100%. So it will ask you questions until it thinks it's 100% knowledgeable about what you're trying to ask. So please, when you're working with AI, collaborate with it, have it ask you questions, and then give it the answers, and then ask it like, okay, now that you have all your answers, do you have any more questions? Because the way that machines learn and people learn is as you learn, sometimes you get more questions based on what you just learned. So go through that cycle of collaboration. Fourth bullet, trust but verify. You keep hearing this. I keep learning this too. Like this is where the humans won't be replaced. Like you have to do the sniff test. You have to think about the answers given to you. And if you don't like them, say no. Like, no, that doesn't sound right. I need you to explain to me in detail why you think that's right. Push back. You should, and it will do that, and it's helpful. On a more techie scale, there's a language called Markdown. I know it probably sounds scary, like, oh God, here's the programming. I knew this was coming in. It's not a programming language. It is a way to, when you're chatting with any of these models, it's a way to like put your text in a version that the model can like differentiate what you're talking about. I promise you, you already do this today and you don't even realize it. Just people called it um, a markdown. So for instance, today in Word's actually dialed for this. If you hit a star character and then a space and then start typing, Word's smart enough to be like, oh, you need a list of things that's in like no particular order. Let me put a little bullet there. Or you do that with AI and it knows the same thing. It's like, oh, you're just giving me a bullet list. Okay. There's other little tricks. You can use like a triple backtick to tell it like, hey, here's a bunch of output from that command you told me. So go find this markdown thing and just study it. There's like probably 4 tricks I do all the time. It's not super complicated. And then the final bullet is write an about me document and use this as context. So if you're using a ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic, whatever, they all have the same thing. There's something somewhere in your profile where it's usually called instructions or initial instructions or something like that. What you want to do is in there, in plain English, you want to tell it things like, don't be really detailed with me. I'll ask you if because I'm the kind of person I don't want to read a bunch of stuff. Just give me 5 bullet points, right? So I tell it that. I'm like, don't overwhelm me. Just give me 5 bullet points. Be very succinct. And as you learn more, as you work with the bot and it talks to you certain ways and you don't like that, you just go in those instructions and say, yeah, and don't do that either. And it will read those instructions every single time before it responds to you. So it uses that as it's like, it's your way of telling it how to talk to you. As you dial that about me in, you will find that there's much less friction. You'll be much less frustrated by how it's talking to you because, again, it's math. So these models were trained, if you don't tell it anything about you, it's going to think that you are the quote unquote average person. So it'll just, it's going to an average there. I think that is my present. Oh, no, it's not. One more. Let me check time. Okay, I've got about 2 minutes. Okay, so one more closing thoughts. This goes into the whole opportunity threat thing, right? So this is kind of my personal, what I have found so far with AI. Some opportunities, again, for everybody on this call, because a lot of you are in accounting, you are using NetSuite. NetSuite has limits, but many of you have been like, oh, well, you can do that thing if you just script it, and it's always been a barrier. I want to tell you now the barrier's gone. There is no more barrier. The only barrier is that you have to spend the time with the AI to write the code and iterate. It's not going to get it perfect the first time, but if you put the code in, run it, get an error, send the error to AI and say, hey man, I got this error, go fix that. Ask me questions if you have, what questions do you have? And you just iterate that over and over and over. You will have working code, I promise. Another opportunity is creating agents and workflows to automate knowledge-based kind of work. So this will be scary to some of y'all, but also probably relieving to some of y'all, like just stuff that you do, like, oh my God, do I have to go do that? That's going to take 4 hours. And I just, okay, let's do that. All that stuff can be automated through agents and workflows. I think that's going to be a slower process of adopting. And I think tools like, the Sligo integrations, and then, um, ChatGPT is making their own, Claude's making their own. Like a lot of the companies are trying to make these workflows, this the collection of agents easier. The fourth bullet, or the third bullet, offload terrible work to AI. That's going to happen with the agents and workflows. I think there's going to be work that we all do today that one day we're going to look back and be like, oh my God, I can't believe how much of my life I spent doing that. AI is going to offer that opportunity. And then for any of y'all who have ever wanted to manage, if you're ever, oh, this is another thing. If you're in that position, you're in your company and you're like, I wish we could hire somebody to do this one thing and help me here. It might be possible by just spinning up an agent and then you start managing the agent. You have to tell it who it is, what it's good at. And it's hard work. I'm not going to lie. It's hard work to set these things up, but over time you can get an AI to do that kind of introductory kind of work. Let's move on to the risk side, right, of AI. At least this is just kind of from my perspective. So one thing I've learned is what I'd call decision fatigue. So when you manage a person, typically you'll give them instruction like, hey, I need you to do this, take this data, go do that, come back when you're ready. And they'll take sometimes an hour, sometimes a day, right? It just depends on how hard the work is. But you as a manager, you can kind of switch out of that and just do something else, right? AI comes back in seconds to minutes, right? So you as a manager, it will always come back and if you tell it to ask you questions, which you should, you're constantly asking questions. It's constantly like, okay, so I went and looked at this, I did this, blah, blah, blah. Here's 7 questions for you. So you spend your time, you answer the questions. You click go. 2 minutes later, 7 more questions. So you spend your time, you answer the 7 questions, you click go. 30 seconds later, 5 more questions. And you just over and over and over. And it gets tiring, I'll tell you. But at the end, what happens, you get to a point where the AI knows exactly what you want and you don't have any questions for it. And at that point, you can, like, for me, it's usually writing software. It's already written. All you have to do is literally say one thing, go write the code now. The AI as a magnifying mirror is something we've seen in the news. I've seen it too. Some of the models. The models are different the way they've been trained, but they will magnify what you believe, not that what you believe is true. So do use it to challenge you. Otherwise, the AI, one of the kind of training of it, it really wants to help you. It wants to be like, it wants to be very helpful to you. And sometimes that means it telling you what you want to hear, basically. So tell it, don't do that, right? Usage expenses, we're all going to deal with this as businesses. These things there's GPUs in data centers that take a lot of electricity and cooling and all that's going to cost. We're all seeing that. Any company that's rolling out AI, you're now seeing token expenses. I think these are just going to get higher. I kind of have some thoughts on that in the very last part too. Humans using AI for intentionally harm, yeah, right? So just like nuclear warfare, like you think about the good and the bad about nuclear, like somebody could launch a missile and end the entire world in one button push, but you also can use those for nuclear technology for CAT scans and save lives every single day. AI is going to be the same. The cat's out of the bag, like you can't undo AI. So even if you somehow, throttle the Anthropics and the Googles and all that of the world, don't forget you've got the Olamas out there, which are open source AIs that people train on their personal GPUs that they bought, on Amazon. And so like it's not, we're not going back. So you're going to have people using these. There are bad people out there, so there's going to be bad people using it for harmful purposes. However, we will also have, I absolutely foresee we're going to have AIs that are specifically trained to look for those harmful AIs and counteract them. So I think it's going to be a lot like the computer security world today, but just different. And then the societal impact, I think that's where we all are. Like, what does this thing mean to me? Especially if you're in thought jobs, which, let's be honest, all of us are. We run in NetSuite. NetSuite is computer work that deals with numbers and math and accounting, which is very structured logic. It's the same kind of logic forever. I struggle with this myself, and it's the best I can say is it will change your world. You have to be open to changing how you think. However, the AI is just math. It's pattern matching. The one thing it doesn't, it's not a human. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have intuition. There are things that you will be able to vault into this kind of next world of like the why. And this is what at work I kind of learned this. It's all about the why. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the AI is just not going to really be good at the why. It's going to be really good at the what and the how. All right. I think that concludes my part of the talk. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And feel free to chat questions if you have them, or reach out to me. My email is on the first slide.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yeah, looks good.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. My presentation is all about everything related to AI inside of NetSuite to the best of my ability. Just wanted to have everybody, there's a react button at the bottom of your screen. If you could send a reaction just so I can make sure there's people listening and I can see those come in. I cannot see them, so that's cool. No worries. Well, thank you guys so much. My name is Ryan Longenecker. I am the owner of Collective Mind Technologies. Also just launched Sweet Enrich. If you scan the QR code, it'll go to my LinkedIn if anybody's interested in connecting. At the very end, I'll also have this QR code for if you guys want the presentation at the very end as well. There's also QR codes throughout the presentation that are related to each of the topics as we're going through, just so you have some context and if you wanted to dive deeper into the presentation. So I'm going to be doing the overview really quick. So I'm going to be going through the built-in features that are inside of NetSuite as of today. Preferences, expert, text enhance, etc. After that, I'm going to be going through some 2026.1 features. I'm sure some of you are already getting that update pushed to you. But if you haven't, there's a ton of AI features coming, whether that's next week or next month, whenever you get that feature pushed to your account. After
Ryan,
that, yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just forgot to ask, are your CPE questions in your slides?
they are. They'll be in there.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. After the 2026.1 AI features, we're going to do a little bit of NetSuite Next. What is coming in the next 3 to 6 to 12 months? So we're going to chat about that a little bit. Then I'm going to try to do a quick demo depending on how things go, and Q&A, or we can move the Q&A to the general chat. Awesome. So we're going to start with the built-in features and a few custom projects that you can do with those features. So before we jump too far ahead, these are the risks, controls, and mitigation strategies that NetSuite has in their documentation. So I just wanted to touch on it really quickly. Hopefully everybody's learned all the terms from Mike's presentation, which great job, Mike. Thank you for doing that. LLMs can be manipulated. There can be hallucinations, unintended actions, data changes, losses, etc., etc. I would highly recommend checking out this page if you scan the QR code, just to know the risks that are involved with using any of the tools that I'm going to present to you guys today. Cool. So the first thing is AI preferences. So these are available for administrators. It's in setup, company, AI preferences. I'll show you guys that in my demo and how to get there. But this is kind of where you can turn on and off certain things. So you can turn on and off text enhance. Text enhance has translations we'll talk about in a minute. You can turn those on and off. And then all the other features I'm going to go through here in just a minute. You can turn them on and off here, as well as you can kind of see the limitations and usage of each of the features as you're progressing through your month before they reset. There's also an option for unlimited usage of connecting Oracle's cloud infrastructure. So if you're using AI and you're hitting your limits, there is a way to pay for unlimited usage through the preferences as well, or at least get it set up. Next is one of the main features that NetSuite added a while ago. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, but it's called NetSuite Expert. I'm guessing most of you may have seen this already, but in Suite Answers, if you put in more than 3 words, you can activate it. It has quick results, focused answers, and it reduces time to find information inside of Suite Answers. It summarizes what you're looking for. There's citations and links to the specific articles, and you can use natural language questions. You don't have to put in an article number or anything like that. I'd say this is one of the very first uses NetSuite added in of AI and natural language, which is very nice. Awesome. Next is another feature they added about 1.5 to 2 years ago. It's called Text Enhance. So Text Enhance is a way to quickly create content, update content, clean up content, make something longer or shorter inside of your NetSuite. So in a text field, you will see either this little icon here, or in the newest update, there is this generate button that they've added down here. So this is a way you can extend your item descriptions. You can put in more information or clean up your sales order communications, account descriptions. It can help you write customer messages for support cases or invoices. And you can also translate it to different languages. So you can see down on the bottom, you can do change it to French or any other language that you've turned on and told that you want to translate it to. So you can make it easier for your global team. Next feature that NetSuite added in was called Prompt Studio. One thing that I think Mike, reiterated very well is the prompt is one of the most important pieces on the user's end to support using AI. So NetSuite has built in a prompt studio where you can see all of the prompts that NetSuite has built in for text enhance. You can customize those prompts to make them custom for you. And you can also create your own prompts that you can save as text enhance actions. I'll show you that in the next screen, I believe. And another cool feature of the Prompt Studio is you can make a prompt, save it in Prompt Studio, and you or your developers can reference that prompt in script. We'll chat about that in just a minute, but it just makes it easy to save your prompts inside of NetSuite so they can be reused over and over and over again. So some of the specifics of the Prompt Studio, you can add in company-specific language or branding. So if you need to have your website listed on every single response of an item description, maybe for your Amazon listing or your Shopify listing, you can add that into your prompt and make it specific for your company. There's localization that you can add into the prompts. And like I said, you can save the prompts and use them inside of your script inside of NetSuite and be able to access them easily and update them as you go. It is to customize text enhance. So you can see here on the right-hand side, clean up, make longer, and make shorter those are all built-in text enhance buttons and prompts, but you can create your own very quickly, very easily. So you create a prompt in Prompt Studio, you give it a title. This one's called marketing language, and then you're in control of the prompt that the AI runs through. So if you have some item descriptions and you need them to be updated, or you have customer communication that you have strict guidelines of the information and what you say during that communication, you can create your own prompts, put them in text enhance, and then have your support reps or your sales reps or anybody that's working in NetSuite have a really quick, easy way to run through those prompts. Prompt Studios to help with the content and improving the content and then reducing time as well. I think I have my first CPE question here.
Okay, go ahead and pop that up. CPE question should be live. Looks like we might have some answers all over the place here a little bit.
Maybe I didn't word this the best, but that's okay. We'll chat through it.
Okay, about 30 seconds left for the CPE question. All right, I'll go ahead and end the question. Share the
Awesome.
results.
Thank you, Corey. Sorry, that was a mixed bag there. So, what built-in AI feature allows for informative AI-generated answers and instructions? My intended answer was NetSuite Expert. It's going to give you answers and instructions based on your questions built inside of NetSuite as you're going through Suite answers, but technically, Prompt Studio could also do that as well, provide answers and instructions depending on your prompt. So um, that's a good 50-50 answer there. I'm going to keep going. One thing I do want to address just in the chat is um, the text enhance prompt type as you're creating it is specifically for text enhance. So that's going to add these options here on the right-hand side, such as marketing language. If you create a general prompt type, that is going to be used for SuiteScript, that you can put it into your script and use it anywhere in NetSuite that your script is going to be running. Just wanted to address that really quick. So speaking of script, this QR code in the bottom right goes to our list of posts from our past meetings, specifically going to reference Mike's SuiteScript for non-scripters. If you don't know anything about what's scrolling on the screen, which is totally fine, this is SuiteScript, and I would recommend checking out those past meetings. So SuiteScript, as far as I know, in my general knowledge of it is a way to customize, automate, control, and make NetSuite do what you want it to do all through script. So that being said, there's different modules that you can access inside of SuiteScript. One of the newer modules in the last year or two is the LLM module. So like Mike said, large language model. This gives the ability for someone on your team to write SuiteScript that can take that script, run it through NetSuite's LLMs, which has access to Cohere and Llama. It runs it through the LLM or the AI, and it brings the information back into NetSuite. So this is a built-in way that you can access AI directly inside of NetSuite from a developer standpoint. It's easy to access. It's free. It can increase productivity and customization of your account. So if there's fields or information that you need to run through AI that's specific to your account, you don't want it to leave NetSuite. You don't want to copy it and put it into your local laptop and put it in your own LLM. This is a way to access it directly inside of NetSuite. It's built in. It's clear and direct access to those LLMs. There are lots of examples available that NetSuite has created and provided the script for. This is where you can connect to Prompt Studio. So maybe you have a memo field that you want to summarize, and you don't want to put the prompt into your script. You would put the prompt in Prompt Studio. You would create your script. It would run it through, grab the prompt, run it through AI, and bring the information back into the summary field. The next few slides after this one's the pricing slide. There's free access to everyone for their LLM. If you want to pay as you go, there is an unlimited payment option available. And there's also an option to have your own dedicated AI cluster that has unlimited access to AI through their LLM. So those are the kind of the pricing options and availability for running SuiteScript through their AI. Those are all available currently inside of NetSuite, so I just wanted to mention that. A few custom projects that use SuiteScript and LLM. I'm just going to kind of bounce through these kind of quickly. This is a chatbot that NetSuite gives you the script to. The QR code goes to a blog, which has a link to the script. This is the most, I'd say, primitive form of AI that's built into NetSuite right now. You can copy and paste the script in. It gives you access to this little chat bot with a submit button. It runs it through AI and pulls the answer back in for you. Very simple, very easy to implement if you just want to check it out. I'd say this is a precursor to a lot of the features that I'm going to show you and are going to be coming into NetSuite. Here's another example. This is a journal entry explainer. You take all the fields on the journal entry, which there's about 10 or 12. You run it through AI with a prompt, and then you can save it back in as a journal entry summary. So maybe you need to give a summary of all your journal entries to an external auditing company. This is a really easy way to pull that information in, run a save search with all the answers, and share that report with them. So that's an example of running AI on a single record. This is another example, a little bit bigger. So same exact process, but it's run on a sales order. So instead of 10 or 15 fields, this is run on hundreds of fields that are from the sales order. And then you can run it through a prompt, either through Prompt Studio or in the script. And it provides you a full summary of the sales order. And then this one also I added in an urgency rating. So you can run that through a search, find your most urgent sales orders, invoices, purchase orders, whatever you're running it on, and you can kind of prioritize based on the urgency score. Another feature that is custom. These are all custom projects using the LLM. I just wanted to mention that again. This one runs on a list of records. So it looks at all of your items inside of NetSuite, every product you sell, and then it comes up with 5 brand new products that you don't currently sell, and it runs it every day. So once a day, it's just coming up with new ideas based on your current products in your items list. And then you can do R&D, you can do marketing based around these new ideas and new descriptions for products. Next one is a new lead creation. So a brand new lead gets created from a form or from your website. Based on the information that it has suggestions and additional information about the lead that was created and suggestions to move that lead to a prospect or a customer. This one is cool as well. So this one, a new support case comes in and gets created. It checks the solutions that you have available in your knowledge base in NetSuite based on the initial support case and what's in there and a prompt. It looks at all the solutions and provides the top solutions that it recommends that you have in your system, as well as a few AI solutions. So that is AI on a single record, but it compares it to a list of records, such as your solutions. You could do that with field service management. So if anybody's using that module in NetSuite, maybe you're doing a bunch of field service tasks, and you want to compare a new task to the old ones just to see what has been done in your field service. In the notes that are in there, you can compare those two together. Just a couple more examples, maybe just one more. This, again, is a list of records. So in this particular example is a list of messages, and it summarizes that full communication that you've had with the customer, whether it's emails, maybe like Like I said, field service tasks, activities. It's just a long list of records that you've communicated with the customer, and it summarizes all those together. So maybe you have a sales rep or a new person on your team, and they need to get caught up very quickly and easily. This is a way to do that. All right, moving on to one of NetSuite's coolest and most exciting new features that they've added recently is called the AI connector service. So Mike talked a little bit about MCP. So MCP, like he said, is a way to connect systems together specifically around AI and have access to those systems that are connected. So NetSuite has taken that standard of MCP. They've opened up NetSuite to MCP connectors and made it available, so you can easily access your data through these AI applications. So the MCP connector is an easy way to access your data. It's free through NetSuite, free with an asterisk. You have to pay for the AI tools. So it connects with Claude paid account and ChatGPT paid account as well. I believe at SuiteWorld they alluded to it connecting to other systems and other AI tools. I believe that's coming in the near future, hopefully, but do not buy stock based on my future statements. There's built-in standard tools for the MCP connector, which we'll chat about here in just a second. You have full control of the user and the permissions that these tools have access to. So when you connect to Claude or ChatGPT or any of these tools, you tell it exactly what role in NetSuite it has access to. You tell it exactly which permissions it has access to as well. It's just like any other user that logs into your NetSuite. If you only want it to have view permissions, if you don't want it to have access to transactions or financial data, all you need to do is remove those permissions or change them to view access. Or you can go the opposite. You can give it full access, read, write, full, edit permissions, if you want the AI tools to have full access to your NetSuite. The next page here, so there's a Suite app that's free. It's called the MCP Standard Tools. You can install it from the App Store. It takes a minute or two to install, and it comes with these different tools. So like Mike was saying on his slides, MCP has access to using tools in these systems. These are the standard tools that come out of the box. So record tools for creating, retrieving, or updating records inside your NetSuite. It also has access to your reports, all your subsidiaries, all of your saved searches. It can run reports, it can run saved searches. And then the most powerful tool that I know of that's built in is the SuiteQL tools. So this can run queries on your entire NetSuite, again, depending on the data that you give it access to. And it can run those searches, those queries into the AI, and then the AI can use the power that it has through Claude, through ChatGPT, through wherever you connect it to. One really important thing that Mike did touch on, I'm going to dive just a little bit deeper into it, is prompting. So prompting, just like with the Prompt Studio, with the MCP connector and Claude and ChatGPT and any other AI tool you use, the prompt is the most powerful part that the user has control of. So this is NetSuite's prompting guidelines. If you scan the QR code, it'll go to the support page. They recommend clear instructions of the task and the question. They recommend defining the role or the perspective that the model should take. the context, any background, any situational details you can add, input data, and output format. So these are NetSuite's recommendations. I would recommend following them. The next page is kind of an expansion of this. These sections here at the top that are not bold, those line up with NetSuite's suggestions. And then here's a few additional things that I would recommend adding. So tone, the style, the vibe of the answer that you want it to be coming back with, any type of constraints or requirements. One thing I've been adding recently is don't make up data. If you put that line in, hopefully it's not making up any information that you're pulling from your NetSuite or whatever system. Evaluation criteria, rubrics, process steps, safety, verification, and refinement loop. I think Mike touched on this again. Ask it question or have AI ask you questions. If you tell it the goal all the way down to the safety and verification, at the very end, you can say, ask me questions until this is 100% clarified. And the AI, Claude, ChatGPT will continuously ask you questions to narrow down what you're looking for until it has no more questions and it can provide an answer to you in a better format. Hopefully this is a better CPE question, but if you don't mind pulling that up, Corey.
Yep. Give me 1 second here. We'll get that CPE question launched. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, about 10 seconds left for the CPE question. Kind of split answers on this one too. We'll see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it.
Awesome. I guess these are all trick questions, so sorry about that. What built-in AI feature allows for adding AI into NetSuite scripts? The answer is 2, the N-LLM. That is the module that's available to add into NetSuite scripts directly to add AI into your NetSuite. All right. Let's keep going here. Next CPE question. Do you mind pulling it up,
Sorry,
Corey?
you surprised me. Hang on 1
Sorry,
sec.
sorry.
All right.
I'll read it while you're pulling it up. What is an advantage of using the NetSuite AI connector?
Okay, there we go. So that question is launched. About 15 seconds left for this CPE question. All right, I'm going to end this poll. Share the results.
Thank you, Corey. The answer is 3, access to your information in the latest AI applications. Just to quickly touch, I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker because I have a bunch of slides, but there are a bunch of other built-in current tools I do not have access to, but there's bill capture, scanning in invoices, and using AI for object detection, planning and budgeting, AI commentary for that. There's narrative reporting, which we'll touch on here in just a second, and then data analytics warehouse. There's a chatbot user built in to ask questions of the data patterns from your data analytics warehouse. So 2026.1 is starting to be rolled out. You may or may not have it. We're going to touch on a few of the features that are coming with that. So 2026.1, there's a new close manager tool. I'll show you guys in the demo, but it's to help expedite closing, to show all your different tasks and AI-driven insights to help close every month. There's bank transaction matching, which is an enterprise tool. I don't have information on that, so sorry about that. But that comes with automatic matching and AI capabilities for bank transactions. That is also coming. There is AI-generated inventory narratives. I'll show you guys on the next few screens. There's a new rules-based pricing engine and AI-generated summaries for pricing. I'll show you guys that in a second. And then the last one is an AI assistant in the CRM for customers and for support cases as well. So this is the new AI-powered close manager tool. So it'll show you the completion of your close for each month, how many open tasks there are, how many exceptions. It'll show you the posted customer payments. It shows you a list of information here you can see. And then in the top right and the middle left-hand side, those are AI-generated pieces of information based on your close every month. The next section here is now built into reports. So the inventory activity report, there's a new Generate Insights button down here, and it generates a full AI insight page or report for your report. Key points, key takeaways, the reporting period. That is a new feature that's being built into a lot of different places of NetSuite. I'm going to try to show you guys a demo of it if we have time. There's also the same button that generate insights for item pricing. So on every inventory item, you can click on, there's pricing highlights, inventory highlights, demand trends as well. And this is all generated from your real live data that's in your NetSuite. There is AI-generated support case summaries. So same thing, there's a generate summary button here. It generates a summary of the support case, so your support reps can hop in as quickly as they can and get up to date as they can. So it shows the sentiment, shows a summary of the customer. It shows some of the incoming messages that they've sent in as well. Corey, I got one more CPE question for you, and I think one more later, but I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. Let me get that popped up here. Where did it go?
I'll just read it as you're pulling it up. What new feature can be used to summarize inventory reports?
All right, here we go. About 20 seconds left for the CPE question. All right, go ahead and share the results.
Awesome. Thank you. The answer to that is number 3, AI generated inventory narratives. The narratives button is going to be coming to a lot of features in 2026.1. All right, this is all about NetSuite Next. It's very exciting. NetSuite announced this at SuiteWorld in October. Um, uh, they said in October it's going to come out in the next 12 to 18 months. Hopefully it's sooner than that, and they keep posting on LinkedIn that it's coming soon. So this is NetSuite Next, as best as I can represent it. So this is a complete overhaul, a complete change to NetSuite. And I'm going to do my best to prepare you for the AI features. So it's a brand new interface. It is all based on Oracle's Redwood, which is dynamic, drag and drop, new, modern, clean interface. And this is kind of what it looks like, or this is what we've seen so far. Some of the main AI features I'm going to show to you now. The biggest one that they presented on was called Ask Oracle. It is in the bottom right-hand corner. I'll go back one screen. So it's down here in the bottom right-hand corner. This is what it looks like when you start typing in it. I believe this is going to probably replace the global search at the top of NetSuite currently. So if you're thinking about that, um, when you type in, it's easy to interact with. It's easy to access AI. You can use plain language communication with it. If you misspell something, it knows what you were looking for. It gives you direct access to AI and agents or workflows for either seeing them or creating them right inside of Ask Oracle. I'll touch on that in a second. It's natural language, it's search. You have access to creating and seeing visualizations directly from Ask Oracle. It's interactive content, and there is a how and a why for every response. So as you type something in and ask a question and it responds, there's information that's referencing your data inside of NetSuite, so you know where it's coming from, which I thought was pretty cool. The next feature is AI agents or suite agents. It is their new automation tool. One of the examples that they showed is there's an agent running in the background. It's detecting returns on specific items. It's detecting analysis and solutions for those returns. So the example is monitoring returns, return authorizations, and communications from customers. It's analyzing the return reasons, and then there's AI recommendations for actions based on that information. So this is one of the examples. The other example that I remember, which I couldn't find, was it was running AI in your NetSuite on your competitors to see what they were doing. So there's lots of use cases for the AI agents that are going to be coming, and this is where the power of AI is really going to be pushed inside of NetSuite, from what I can see. You can access the AI suite agents from Ask Oracle. They run behind the scenes. There's monitor progress. You can view all the results. It's automated. It's for automating. Users can create those automations from Ask Oracle, and developers can create them on the back end as well. This to me is going to obviously change NetSuite. It's going to automate a lot of things. It's it's going to, I don't know if it's going to take the place of workflows. I don't know if it's going to take the place of, scripting in certain aspects, or it's just going to be a new cool automated tool. I'm excited to test it out. The next interactive AI piece that they presented was AI canvases. These are interactive screens that can be shareable with your real data. They're drag and drop. You can adjust. You can see here, you can ask Oracle based on the data that's presented. They're collaborative, expansive, and very interactive, which is very exciting to me. They're also built on the Redwood interface and design, as I believe everything is. And you can create and use it all with Ask Oracle. I don't think these are replacing, the dashboards or the main screens, possibly. But it's a new way to interact with NetSuite and with the data that you have inside of NetSuite. Corey, this is my last CPE question. Sorry, I have 5, but here it
No
is.
problem. Yep. We'll go ahead and launch the last one here.
After the CPE question, I'm going to hop into a quick demo to show you guys how to get to some of these features and what some of the features look like in 2026.1.
About 30 seconds left for the CPE question. All right, and that poll, share the results.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. My answer was meant to be Ask Oracle. That's going to be on every single page of NetSuite, NetSuite Next, and it's the way to have conversations about your data. I don't know enough information, or I haven't seen enough information if this is going to be the same in AI canvases, but the answer that I intended was Ask Oracle. Awesome. So I'm going to try to do a quick demo here. Can you guys let me know if you can still see my screen when I swipe over here?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, cool. So just to go through a few of the things at the very beginning, if you're an administrator, you're going to have access to this. So if you go to Setup Company, there's a new-ish AI section down here. So the AI preferences are here, and the prompt studio is here as well. My guess is they're going to continue to add menu options here, possibly as they add new features. So the AI preferences, like I said before, you're going to have access to your usage that you've used, your limits. You're going to have access to turn on and off text enhance translations, which languages you want to have available, prompt studio, if you want to use Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or OCI for your prompts. Intelligent recommendations, I didn't touch on very much. I don't have access
Do
to
you
it.
know
So
where Buddy went? Question mark. I can't find Buddy.
sorry about that. Narrative Insights is new at 2026.1. So you have access to that, as well as giving access to these features to external roles. Or if you just don't like these and you want to turn them off. Let's see, Prompt Studio is there as well. So this is what Prompt Studio looks like. You can create specific actions in your prompts for your text enhance. So this one I called marketing language, which is going to show up in the next screen in a second. And then the prompt for marketing language is in here. So if I go to custom text enhance prompts, let's see if I can find this one real quick. Marketing. There's my marketing language prompt. I can edit it. I can change it. I can make it better. Do not judge me on this prompt. It is not good. But I do recommend putting in don't make up information. So hopefully it doesn't do that. So that's the prompt studio. That's how you can create new prompts. And this is what it looks like when you have your own prompt. So if you pull up an item, a support case, anything with text in it, there's going to be this new generate button here. This is where my prompt is accessible for text enhance. This is where I can do the translation. I can clean it up. I can make it longer. I can make it shorter. And text enhance is available on over 200 text fields inside of NetSuite. Let's go to a few other features here. We're running up on time, so sorry, I'm gonna go a little bit further, maybe if it loads here. We'll skip that one. So there's a new feature on customers. So if you go to Customer 360 in the top right-hand corner and load that, there is a new Generate Insights for customers as well. Once this loads, here we go. So we have our customer. We have all the information, the 360 of our customer. This is a new Generate Insights button here in the top right-hand corner that you'll have access to as well.
I'm sorry.
Say,
I'm curious. Are you going to send over the recording? Because it's going a little fast, so I just wanted to spend
yeah,
some time on these.
definitely. We have all of our meetings recorded on our website, rmnsug.org/posts. And every meeting for the last 7 years, I believe, is on there. This one will be on there as well.
Okay. How long will it take to be there? Sorry.
Maybe a couple weeks
Usually a couple weeks. Just depends as how soon we can get it.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, no problem. And if you connect with me at the end slide, I can send you the slideshow as well. Sorry, it's 11 o'clock. I'm just going to show a few more things for like 1 more minute, and then we'll go to Corey's update. Sorry about that. Sales order also has the Generate Insights button here. Support cases now have the Generate Insights button. Inventory activities report has the Generate Insights button down in the bottom. And then to just chat about the MCP server, if you go to the Suite app icon here and search for MCP, you can install the standard tools into your NetSuite. And then the QR code on the slide I shared is the setup page for the MCP server. And yeah, those are all the new features that are either built in currently, coming with 2026.1, and NetSuite Next, a little preview there. So I'd love if anybody's interested in connecting, you can scan this code. The next user group event, like Corey said, is April 9th. And if anybody has any questions or ever needs help setting up their AI inside of NetSuite, please reach out. But thank you guys for letting me present.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. I'm going to go ahead and take over. We're going to go through some highlights of 2026.1 release. I know we've talked a lot about the AI stuff that's coming in there today. If you don't see any of the stuff that Ryan was talking about in your account yet, it's probably because either you're not on 2026.1 yet, or you don't have the features enabled. A lot of these features have to be enabled by an administrator. If you're not sure if you're on 26.1 yet, you can go to your homepage and go to the scroll to the very bottom of the screen, and it tells you what version of NetSuite you're currently running on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Have just a quick slide show to go through. So this is 2026.1 release highlights. I will say that as I was reading through all of the release notes, I think I'm excited. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming. I'm not going to be able to touch on everything that relates to every industry, but it seems like there's a lot of features that NetSuite is bringing to life or adding functionality to. I highly recommend going through the release notes. And pro tip is take that release notes PDF, pop it into your favorite AI tool like Claude or whatever, and say, tell me about what in the release notes might apply to my business. And if you've been using, an AI tool to help you do things in your company, it probably knows a little bit about what you do for what your company does already. Or you can do that about me page and tell it what your company does, and then have it recommend what might be pertinent to you in the releases. So I've just scanned it. These are the things that are interesting to me. It's very biased. There's going to be things that are interesting to you that I'm not going to talk about, but it's just the things that I thought stood out. So first of all, in the administration and account setup section, they're removing sandbox refresh limits, and I think this may not be such a big deal to some people, but traditionally NetSuite, if you have a sandbox account, they'll give you like one sandbox refresh a month, or something like that for the term of your NetSuite license agreement, and now you can refresh as much as you want. So refreshes are now unlimited, which I think is pretty cool if you're working on testing and doing a bunch of updates in your sandbox account. Also, NetSuite 360, there's the redesign is now available globally. So NetSuite 360 is where you go to see your NetSuite support cases. Your support contacts, notifications, subscriptions, stuff like that. So this is what do they used to call this? The account center, I think, something like that. But it's a nice redesigned dashboard for kind of everything that's about your NetSuite account. So I know that we've talked obviously a lot about the new features that are coming today, and I may duplicate some of the things that Ryan just told you about. But these are just some of the things that stood out to me that I thought were really interesting. So narrative insights on reports and records. I think that one of the things that's really going to be cool here is the narrative insights on reports. So you can go to your OpenAR report or your OpenAP or something like that, and get a narrative on that report and some insights on that. So I just think it's going to be pretty amazing what they're doing throughout the system. Suite Cloud Developer Assist. This is a lot of what Mike was talking about. The Suite Cloud Developer Assistant in Visual Studio Code. At this point, it's an AI-powered coding tool integrated via the client extension. So if you're a developer or if you're a hacker and you want to, start working on some of your own scripting in NetSuite, you can do this right in VS Code, which is a program that comes with every Windows computer, basically, or you can download it for free. So again, the whole world of scripting in NetSuite is completely changing. It's completely revolutionized, and to Mike's point, there are no limits anymore. There are no limits. I thought this one was pretty cool. I don't think anybody talked about this today. Payment date prediction for invoices. So NetSuite now uses machine learning trained on historical payment data to predict when customers are expected to pay open invoices. So it displays the results directly on the invoice forms and the invoices page. So there's some new fields. There's predicted payment date, predicted overdue days, and predicted payment date availability. So just using some historical information and some AI to figure out when you're going to get paid by your customers, which I think is pretty cool and might help with some cash flow projections and things like that. So accounting and intercompany, again, this is pretty specialized if you're not using any of these features, but I've been dealing with a lot of this, and so it's interesting to me. And there's some limitations around some intercompany stuff. So anyway, they're kind of expanding that. When running intercompany eliminations, users can now view source transactions on elimination journal entries for all account types, including AP, AR, and other assets and liabilities. I think this is pretty cool because a lot of the time the elimination journals are kind of barren of information and detail, and the auditors really don't like that, and it's really hard to find this information and tie it back together for journals and eliminations and all of that. So this should help kind of take the cover off of some of the automatic elimination processes that happen in the system. Also the ability to, I'm sorry. That's my next slide. New intercompany elimination data set. So again, I think for any company that goes through any audit process, this is going to be helpful in Suite Analytics Workbook to build workbooks and data for auditors, where this information has been typically pretty hard to come by without like some serious save search skills to get all of this put together. And then this one, you can unlock intercompany cross-charge journals. So cross-charge journals are from journal entries that happen from one entity or one subsidiary to another in NetSuite, and they're typically locked down and you can't do anything with it. And so they're opening that up a little bit so you can unlock those cross-charge journals. I haven't actually used this yet. I haven't seen it functioning in any account yet, but I think it's again, it's going to release some of the restrictions that are in these intercompany processes. Authentication section. So this is, I thought, pretty cool. Administrators can now configure a login notification, a compliance message displayed to every user upon login that must be acknowledged before accessing the account. So this supports compliance standards such as NIST, which I think is National Institute of Standards, something like that. But I think it kind of gives you some extra capability as an administrator to configure some login notifications. And then I also the tracking of the user's acceptance is now tracked via the login audit trail. So just some extra administration capabilities there. From a banking perspective, enhanced controls for import email notifications. There's a few different updates to the banking imports. So this one, bank import email notifications are now more flexible. For automatic imports using a format profile, a dedicated notification email address can be assigned to receive both success and error alerts. Traditionally, the email that gets the bank alert or the import notifications, whether it's successful or failed, is either just an administrator or all the administrators or the person who actually set up that bank import. So now you have actually control over who gets those notifications. You can also do custom scheduling for automatic imports now. So bank transaction imports can now be scheduled flexibly by format profile rather than once daily at a fixed time, which we had basically had zero control over that before. Each format profile setup for bank reconciliation includes a new import schedule sub-tab where you can see the frequency, interval, start date, start time, and time zone. So again, I think they're expanding a lot of the bank import functionality, which has been traditionally, I think, a gap in the system. And then also you can control the start date for transaction imports. I think historically it'll import the last 60 days of transactions automatically, but now you can choose the start date when you're setting up a brand new bank import configuration. And then update imported data for connected accounts on demand. So users can now trigger an on-demand refresh of transaction data from account information service providers such as Yodlee, MX, SaltEdge, and American Express using the new update imported bank data button on the format profile page. So again, enhancing the capabilities here. Basically, you can go trigger a manual import. I will note that it is limited to 1 per hour. So you can't go in there and just do it over and over and over again. It does pop up an alert that says, oh, you have to wait 60 minutes before you can do this again. I have tested this one just to make sure that it was actually there. And then also standardized error codes for imports. So bank import failures now surface standardized error codes and clear messages, replacing free text failure reasons across the banking import history page, format profile page, and match bank data page. Hopefully they give you more information about why something might have failed. A lot of the time historically it's just been like unknown error and you just have to kind of like dig in and try and figure out what's going on. But so they're going to have some standardized codes for those error messages, and hopefully they'll be a little bit more helpful in the future. Okay, inventory and order management. So there is this new consigned inventory management capability. So 26.1 introduces a dedicated consigned inventory management feature for tracking vendor consigned regular lot serialized items for purchasing and receiving through to outbound fulfillment. So the use case here would be if you are maybe a distributor and you host inventory that you don't own, you're consigning that inventory and distributing it on behalf of your customer. Before, it would take a ton of customization in NetSuite to perform this type of functionality, but now it's going to be a feature that you can, I don't know if it's a bundle or a suite app, but it's a feature you'll be able to enable in your account at some point here. I think Ryan might have mentioned this. There's some AI around the pricing rules, but there's some new features around pricing, which has historically been a little bit limited. So the new price rules feature lets price managers automatically apply price levels to sales transactions based on specific criteria such as customer group, item, and date range. This doesn't give you a lot of information about the detail. I recommend, if this is interesting to you and you use the price rules features in NetSuite, you should go read about the new capabilities here, because it's going to end up being a lot more flexible for the different types of pricing rules that you can use in the system. So heads up on that one. Cost plus pricing. So you can now configure a price level to be whatever the item's cost is, plus like either an amount or a specific percentage. So you can apply a markup or a discount. I don't know why you want to do a discount on cost, but maybe you want to do a markup over cost. I've seen some distribution companies that have that requirement where they have 10% above cost or 20% above cost or something like that. So I think that's a pretty helpful feature that they're adding in. And also cash refund records are now supported in CSV Import Assistant. I remember talking about this like, I don't know, 7 years ago when we were talking about CSV imports and what you can't, the record types that you can't import. It used to be item fulfillments, cash refunds. There was another one I can't think of off the top of my head. But anyway, now you can import CSV import item fulfillments. Now you can import CSV import cash refunds. So they're kind of fixing those things over time and making updates, which I think is encouraging. Suite flow and platform section. So this is my last one. View logs for scheduled workflows. I think this is pretty cool. A new scheduled log subtab on the workflow definition page now shows the run status of each scheduled workflow instance, including when each ran, when it completed, and the number of records processed. This was basically a total black box before. You had no idea when a workflow ran or what it ran on, and you would have to go into testing mode to get it to see if it ran on something else. And so I think this is just a pretty cool little addition to the workflows feature, which I'm sure we'll talk about in our workflow meeting coming up later this year. So with that, that's all I have. Again, I highly recommend you go read the release notes, or at least put it into your favorite AI tool and have it tell you what it thinks might be useful to or pertinent to your particular business. And full disclosure, I created this PowerPoint presentation with my friend Claude, and I went through the release notes. I said which topics I wanted it to create a slideshow on. I have this branded PowerPoint template for my company, and I just said, go through the release notes, get these topics, create the slides, and this is what it came up with. So I thought it was pretty cool. Makes it a lot easier. That's one of the worst things in the world to me, is to create a long, tedious PowerPoint presentation. I think it's just such a time suck to do that. So I use it for PowerPoint all the time. Anyway, so that's it for our 2026.1 highlights. At this point, we can open our open forum. And Mike, are you okay hosting this as usual?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So I know that there's probably like a ton of conversations we may want to follow up on from the chat, but I'll just let you take over, Mike, and go from there. And I'm going to stop the recording at this point.
All right. I